exposure to air pollution is also being taken.
To see the Himalayan peaks for the first time in 30 years. COVID-19 lockdown measures have brought significantly. Organizations are launching an appeal for global action. A recent study shows that this preventable disease accounts for 15% of all deaths of children.
We will push that project no matter what happens. Our production lines are operating full capacity and our engineers are working out.
Since late 2019, everything about our lives has changed in the wake of COVID-19, from the way we dress, gather, socialize, and travel to the way we organize our communities. As we continue to adapt and recover, it is increasingly evident that the virus is here to stay. Nothing will return to normal. What then is going to be the next normal? And what opportunities for change have we been presented with in the midst of upheaval? This question is an important one because we find ourselves in the midst of a social upheaval, and considering the global nature of this disease, it also is global. While many would rightly call this an apocalypse, others may choose to see this as an opportunity. We live now in a strange new world. Gatherings are distanced, masks are now an expression of individuality and creativity, and digital worlds have erupted to replace the loss of physical ones. Looming over all of this adaptation is, of course, a permeable threat, a manifestation of great loss, both imminent and potential. In a sense, we are in a period of grief for our lost futures. Every aspect of our lives has been disrupted very suddenly, with no clear pathway of recovery. We are truly facing a monster of modernity. COVID-19 is a monster of the Anthropocene. In the monstrous entanglements of modernity, this virus has hijacked networks of connection and spread around the world. Monsters reflect partially on the perceptions of the world. They disrupt other worlds and they restore cultural conventions. As Anna Tsing writes, monsters are bodies tumbled upon bodies, and they work as manifestations of both our fears and the neglectful abandonment of our creations. Crowded urban environments, exploitation of transient and migrant workers, an emphasis on economic health over human health, wet markets and slaughterhouses with unsafe conditions for animals and humans, all these are elements of modernity that have fostered the perfect environments for a superbug. This virus violates physical and social borders, and in doing so illuminates those aspects of modernity that perhaps are less than ideal for a beneficial world. It is important, therefore, to understand COVID-19 as a social phenomenon as well as a biological one. The question now, of course, is how do we slay the beast? How can we possibly work to defeat this monster, considering the hold it has on our lives and systems and institutions? In part, this question can be answered by understanding the difference between the Leviathan and the monster. There is value in reconceptualizing the cosmic apocalypse into something more manageable, into opportunity. Bruno Latour explores this concept in Facing Gaia by arguing that Enlightenment thinking has forestalled a conceptual response to cosmic threats, such as a global virus or the Anthropocene. Enlightenment cosmology is transcendent in that all knowledge and experience exists somewhere beyond our senses and is waiting to be discovered. Thus, conceptualization of the other has become abstracted from reality and disinhibited by what might be spiritual or natural. Latour counters this by advocating for a reconceptualization of abstract possibilities, such as COVID-19 as being definitive. It is not an apocalypse, it is merely the end of now. Moving from this, I argue that we must adopt transformative thinking. By determining COVID-19 as a global threat, we are creating it into a world-eating leviathan. These cosmic horrors, as those seen in an H.P. Lovecraft novel, are a threat so large, just to look upon them would invoke insanity. They are unstoppable, and by recognizing them as such, we are already defeated. This is the type of transcendent thinking that Latour was writing about. Alternatively, if we are able to transform COVID-19 into a mere monster, we are reordering its threat into something more manageable. Cultures have done this transformation for ages by creating monsters that reflect prevalent fears of the time. Science fiction and fantasy offers a safe outlet of exploration of doom while also echoing what conditions are contributing to this doom in the first place. Transformative thinking allows us to embrace our monsters, to recognize the condition of their creation, and to overcome environments of neglect that allow them to become cosmic threats. Monsters disrupt our expectations of form, but in our visualization of them, they also recreate assumptions of our ability to defeat them. In terms of responses to the Anthropocene, there are many instances of heritage and art activism working to do just this. The Anthropocene Project has an exhibition of artistic responses to human-induced climate change. As quoted from their descriptive statement, a 4-year collaboration between Edward Bratinsky, Jennifer Beichwal, and Nicolas de Pensière, the exhibitions use both new and traditional lens-based art to create an innovative and dynamic expression of humanity's incursions on the planet. The exhibitions are comprised of traditional photographic prints, high-resolution murals with film extensions, film installations, and augmented reality installations. The photography of Edward Bratinsky gives a visual connection to the cacophony of climate change's effects. His project is an augmented digital world where viewers can explore a photo that has been seeded with hidden and discoverable videos, ones that can be manipulated in a 360-degree view. This project transplants viewers into worlds they might not normally have access to, and allows for active immersion. One of them is a wide-angled city landscape of Lagos, Nigeria. Visitors are able to zoom into incredible detail down to individual people and cars. By exploring the photo, one is able to find hidden triggers, as they are called, which open into videos. This is an artistic engagement with the social impact of the Anthropocene made available through digital mediums. Thus, I illustrate the value of art activism and creative engagement in fostering meaningful dialogue around pertinent issues in society. Heritage and other cultural artifacts work in part to create and preserve emphasis in meaning. This connects to what Gilles Deleuze calls dramatization, which provides intensity in events. Every concept has an essential corresponding drama with it. For this reason, it is not useful to be asking the whats in the world, but instead consider the whys, wheres, and hows when understanding a phenomenon. Artistic engagement with events works to develop these whys and hows. Drama does not exist imminently, waiting to be discovered. Its discovery lies in its active creation. In other words, abstraction of thoughts creates meaning. There have already been many creative reactions to the pandemic. For example, there is the Feel the Art Effect organization that has created an Artpocalypse challenge with a new theme every week. These themes are often reflections on the more challenging aspects of the recent changes, such as isolation or distance from loved ones. Fiona Johnston wrote that artistic representations of the coronavirus could be understood as a way to both concretize and diffuse the fear that it evokes. In this way, artistic engagements help us to recognize and acknowledge the power that this monster has over us, and begin to work out ways to embrace it as part of our own creations. As Bruno Latour has said, we must learn to love our monsters. After all, it is not the monster itself we should fear, but the systems of exploitation that created it in the first place, and our subsequent negligence. In that, we must consider ourselves as being linked in a network of monstrous attachments. By creatively producing meaning in reaction to the pandemic, we offer both critique and construction of a better way. In that sense, our job is to consider how we might engage creatively in deciding on the next new normal.